Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today I want to bring to you guys a list of 10 characters that I think desperately need and deserve a tier 3. Now, this kind of topic combines not only discussions about tier 3 characters that I really enjoy, and I said this on the last tier 3 video, but it also sort of splashes into speculation, future updates, and things like that. So it really hits a lot of different targets for me, and despite the fact that tier 3s are really expensive, and despite the fact that we still only have 5 world boss clears per day, and I'm still pushing Netmarble to give us more world boss clears, even if it's not every day. If they have like certain events where, you know, for let's say for 3 days you can do 10 world boss runs per day, when they do that once a month to try to farm up some extra CCF, or they have like a guaranteed CCF day or something like that, I think it would be really cool. And I always welcome more tier 3s because I do think that they bring a lot of unique value to the game, and it's just interesting to see how they sort of interplay between each other and how they tackle new content, even though they're not necessarily needed for existing content. So it's a nice balance. So here we go. These aren't in a particular order. I'm not ranking them kind of least needed to most needed. These are just 10 characters that I looked at the roster and I was like, you know what? I think so. I'm not really taking too much consideration into whether they are blast, combat, speed, or universal. There is some mention of that, keep that in mind, but these are just my thoughts and just how I feel, and of course you're going to have different opinions because there are different characters that you like. So coming in first, we have Black Panther. Black Panther desperately deserves a tier 3 because he's obviously garbage. No, seriously though, Black Panther's tier 3 is probably one of, if not the worst in the game. I'm going to turn him into a meme if Netmarble isn't careful, and they seriously have to buff the King of Wakanda. It's embarrassing. He's supposed to fight Namor in the new movie that's coming out. There's no effing way. A tier 2 Namor can slap around a tier 3 Black Panther, even in PvP, I would guess. So yeah, he desperately needs a buff. But the real first character I want to talk about is the Hulk. The Hulk has been done dirty so many times, not only in Marvel Future Fight, but in the MCU. I really don't understand. Probably the new Crystal Dynamics Avengers game, that Square Enix game, is probably going to make Hulk a piece of shit too. I'm just not really sure. Was there ever a Marvel game that had a good Hulk in it? Did that ever exist? Marvel Heroes Omega or whatever? Maybe? I don't know. The Alliance, the Marvel Alliance Facebook game? Maybe. But seriously, he's gotten tons of uniforms and he's never been better than like B tier. So he desperately needs not only a tier 3 but a rework, but he needs a tier 3 that like quadruples his HP and doubles his physical attack, to put him at or above Namor levels so he can finally be the raging maniac Gamma Berserker that we know he should be. Similar to the Hulk in terms of their sort of place in the comics and in the movies, Black Widow. Now, Black Widow's a tough one for this list because I know there's a Black Widow movie coming. So if I were the Netmarble devs, I would say, you know, we could give Black Widow a tier 3 and kind of a random update like we did for Doctor Strange with the Far From Home thing, but it seems like the fans prefer a thematic tier 3. There's more hype in the community, more people feel that itch to tier 3 the character to go along with everybody else, and it just matches the feel of the update. So why don't we just wait and we'll give her a tier 3 when we introduce Taskmaster in like 2 years or whatever. You know what? Probably, but it still kind of sucks knowing that OG Avengers like Hulk, Black Widow, and, although he's not mentioned on this list, Hawkeye could be waiting still years for their tier 3, while Captain America, Iron Man, and Thor, they got their, Captain America and Iron Man got their tier 2s first when the game first started tier 2s, and they got their tier 3s first. So it's pretty lame that certain Avengers get really express priority, like super express lane checkout priority versus like wait 10 years checkout priority, or anti-priority for some other Avengers. The next one on this list, and I'm going to make a theme of this for the remaining characters I'm talking about, this is technically the third one, is Loki. And Loki because he's a villain, and also because he's universal, because we need more universal tier 3s. But man, as much as I would not like to see Loki at the top of the game, and I honestly don't think Netmarble's ever going to put him back there because he was at the top for so long, I think it would be really cool to see what the devs have in store for a Loki tier 3 skill. His stat buffs could make his clones very strong, and having a Loki ult skill, like a Loki ultimate, a tier 3 skill, that summons even more clones or summons like persistent clones the way that Clea has them, I think would be really cool. Having clones that when they die they combine and so they get stronger, and then there's just one mega clone that does like tons of damage. I don't know. There's so many things they could do with the clone idea. Because it's animated differently than an actual character, they can get really creative and really wild with it. So I would personally love to see what Netmarble could kind of cook up specifically for Loki's tier 3 skill. The next one is a character that I kind of have mixed feelings about being on this list, but I did put him on it anyways because as soon as I saw his character portrait, as soon as I locked eyes with those glowing bastardly things, I was like, yeah, you know what? He kind of does need one. I'm talking about Adam Warlock, aka Adam Asslock, with the S's being money signs. The reason why he's Adam Asslock is because he's an ass, he sucks, but also he costs a lot of money. He's basically the most expensive character in the game because he combines the cost of a Thanos with an upfront cost of 6,600 crystals, which is completely disgusting given that his power level is maybe half of Silver Surfer's. So for all of you out there complaining about Silver Surfer right now, imagine if you had invested and this is what you got instead of Silver Surfer. Yeah, people actually did that at the beginning of 2018. It hasn't even been that long. It's been less than 2 years. So the power creep is real, but also, making bad characters expensive isn't really fun for everyone. So Adam Warlock definitely needs a tier 3. The nice thing about Adam Warlock's tier 3, not only does he already have time freeze immunity, which makes him a nice potential counter to Doctor Strange, is that Adam Warlock is supposed to be kind of the yin to Thanos' yang. He's supposed to go after the Infinity Stones, he's supposed to protect them, he's supposed to, just defeat Thanos. And I know Marvel Future Fight has this sort of back and forth thing with Doctor Strange and Thanos, and they had all those cinematic graphics with Doctor Strange sipping the tea and shit, but I think it'd be really, really cool if they made Adam Warlock like a nice counter to Thanos specifically, and almost explicitly so, just for the comic nostalgia and sort of the references there. Next up on the list, we have another villain, again, sort of the yin to another tier 3's yang. I'm talking about Red Skull. I think they should either keep him speed, possibly even make him combat, or revert him back to blast. I don't really care what his typing is, to be honest with you, but he deserves a huge rework. He's an amazing villain. He's a central villain in the Captain America mythos, and he deserves a tier 3, and he deserves power level that maybe puts him close to Captain America. I know that's a lot to ask because Captain America is a really strong tier 3, but I think it would just be so cool to seeing Cap and Red Skull duke it out blow for blow. He would have to become a lot tankier to hang with Captain America, but I think it would be very, very cool to see sort of an anti-hero, a hero hunter tier 3 who can really go after the heroes and really make them suffer and inflict a lot of damage, whether he does it with Hydra agents and sort of summons and tanks and stuff like that, or whether he just does it with his bare hands. I don't really care, but I think it would be very, very cool, and I think you in the community would like it as well, but maybe I'm wrong and I'm misreading the room terribly. Next up on the list, we have another Universal, Black Bolt. The reason why he needs a tier 3 is because he's the king. He's the king of Atalan? There we go, that's how you pronounce it. He's the king of Atalan, and he's trash. That's basically the only thing you need to know about Black Bolt. And again, like Loki, he has a very unique skill. It's all sound-based, it's all like screaming and those kinds of projections and projectiles. Not projectiles, projections. And so I would love to see what Netmarble does. They could just sort of multiply his quasi-sonic scream and make it like bounce multiple times and have multiple waves. That would be kind of boring, but you could see some sort of like camera switching, you know the tier 3s with the SFX, and him like screeching and all these different things. They could pull it out of the comics, the one where he screams right in Thanos' face and like rips off all of his armor. They could have that sort of angle, but yeah, I would just love to see, not only does he deserve the buffs, but I would personally love to see what Netmarble can do in a unique way to make Black Bolt's tier 3 skill really hit home. Another Universal hero who I think would be really cool for a tier 3, kind of like Red Skull, another Burning Skull in a different way, Ghost Rider. Again, really bad character, really iconic in the comics, like a lot of the other ones I've mentioned, and just kind of really trash. So hit two birds with one stone. You can buff him, and you can give him a tier 3. Again, so many, like, limitless possibilities for how cool his tier 3 skill could be. And again, I would just love to see what they do with it. He could be sort of the opposite of Red Skull, just dealing massive damage, and super judging all of those bad villains, those bad guys. So I think that would be very, very cool for Ghost Rider. Sticking in the Universal class, because I'm kind of obsessed here, we have Hela. Another universal, this time a villain, but again, she should be more along the power level of someone like Thor, and her tier 3 skill could be a ton of different things. She could raise the dead, she could bring in other characters from the sort of Asgard realm. There's a lot to go in here, and she deserves, honestly, a much bigger buff. She was very central in Ragnarok, and I feel like she kind of got left behind. She's like Heimdall, but Heimdall is like a minor character compared to Hela. She's the entire antagonist of that entire arc in the movie, and so she deserves more. And you know, look at how amazing she is in Ultimate Alliance 3. If you haven't seen that, she definitely deserves more, and I'm sure Netmarble could do something very cool with her tier 3. Her skills, now that I'm thinking about it, her skills with her rework actually look really cool. Lots of chains, lots of glowing, lots of lasers, lots of like explosions and stuff like that, like energy explosions, but still. So I'm sure that they could do something very cool and very, you know, in combination of those things for her tier 3. The last universal I promised that I want to mention, and the second last character in general that I want to mention, is Ultron. And for many of the same reasons as a Hela, I think Ultron desperately deserves a tier 3. He is so underrated. He was basically the villain that kicked off the MCU before Thanos, and he really gave the Avengers a run for their money, and everybody knows Ultron. They're like, yeah, Ultron, that guy who, you know, almost killed the Avengers or whatever, almost defeated them. He can multiply himself. He's like the baddest robot. He's, you know, he's Terminator, basically. He's Terminator and Skynet all rolled into one. And he definitely deserves a tier 3. Again, like Loki, they can get super creative with his tier 3s. His tier 3 could be Ultimo. His tier 3 could be like thousands of bots that just run in and explode on you. He could summon a bunch of those bots from the world event that come in. He could summon, you know, bots that combine together when you destroy them, or bots that self-repair when you destroy them. There's so many different things that they could do. He could just power himself up and give himself like a crazy buff with an attack, with like some sort of super laser. There's just a lot of things to do, and I think everyone would be like, hell yeah. I think everyone would get hype for an Ultron tier 3. Who doesn't want to see a big bad robot getting his tier 3? The last character that I think deserves a tier 3 is actually a combination of two symbiotes. And so here you can basically just choose whoever you like, but I like both for different reasons. So the first one I'll explain is Carnage. Carnage has been bad for a long time. He's one of the original paywalls. Most of the players in the game have him who have spent money on the game, so I think it's in Netmarble's best interest from a community perspective to give Carnage a rework and a tier 3 to say thank you to those players who initially invested. The majority of those players have been playing this game for 3+ years, and they were the ones that were not spending at first, and I'm among those players, and then we're like, okay, you know what? Yeah, Carnage is a pay to get character, but I've been playing this game for long enough. They deserve, you know, they deserve a little bit of support. Here you go. I'm going to shell out $10 to get Carnage. Little did I know I was going to spiral into this big whale thing where I'm spending all this money and I have this YouTube channel, but I'm glad the way it ended out and it ended up. And you know, there's a perfect time now to tier 3 Carnage for absolute carnage. But on the flip side, I would be equally happy if they tier 3'd Venom. Tier 3 Venom, in my mind, makes more sense than Carnage makes even more sense than Carnage because they can hit 3 birds with one stone. That's right, a triple. They could tier 3 Venom. Check this out. They tier 3 Venom and they release a renewed classic Venom villain uniform. So I'm talking this Venom uniform, but just rather than it being his base look, it's a uniform. So Venom gets a new uniform, he gets a tier 3. Even if you don't get the uniform, you can still use Venom tier 3 with this look, with the anti-Venom hero uniform, hero look. And if they give him a large enough stat bump, and if they give him a strong enough tier 3 skill, even if his skills 1 to 5 don't hit for that much damage, you could still use it. So they could essentially make 2 tier 3s with 1 by making this really cool hero anti-Venom and then renewing the villain Venom, who we never really got. Venom never really was a good character in Marvel Future Fight. He had sort of a small uptick when Secret Wars Marvel Zombies originally came out, but it was never really that good for that long. He was most menacing as a villain siege boss way back in 2015 or the beginning of 2016. So anyways, those are my choices for 10 characters that desperately need a tier 3. Hit me up in the comments with your list of 10. I'm going to choose the best one and I'll heart it or something, or I'll choose the best 3 and I'll give them hearts and stuff and comments and yada yada yada. Exciting stuff. Let me know what you guys think. Subscribe if you enjoy the content. Do you want to support me? And of course, if you like what you see, I hope to see you again tomorrow. Take care.